Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone, to this space where we explore career, business, clarity, and transitions with heart. Today's guest is someone I consider a kind of elder in the world of values based business and ethical marketing. Tad Hargrave has been working at the intersection of community, business, and integrity for over 20 years through his work marketing for hippies. Many of us, especially women, creatives, and purpose driven folks, struggle with how to share our work without burning out or selling out. Tad's approach is not only needed during these turbulent times, but deeply rooted in dignity. Before I give his official bio, just wanted to hand off to Tad anything that I don't know might come to you to want to say right now.
Nothing comes to me. It's a very generous introduction.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll read his bio so all of my listeners who are millennials, such as myself, may not be familiar with your work, but who are up and coming and feel that being ethical, being aligned to our values, true to us, is more critical than ever. And it's a struggle to know where to start. So I'll just give a quick overview of your bio and kind of give some context. So Tad is a hippie who developed a knack for marketing and then learned how to be a hippie again. Since 2001, he's been weaving together strands of ethical marketing, Waldorf school education, a history in the performing arts, local culture work, anti-globalization activism, an interest in his ancestral traditional cultures, community building, and supporting local economies into this work of helping people create profitable businesses that are ethically grown while restoring the beauty of the marketplace. Tad did improv comedy semi-professionally for 25 years, co-ran Edmonton's progressive community building network, thelocalgood.ca, founded streetcarshows.com, and the jams program of yesworld.org. You can learn more about Tad and his work at Marketing for Hippies and his workshop on the 7 fundamentals of ethical marketing. How does that feel to have someone read all of that back, unless they've done it before and it's nothing new?
It's always I think a lot of people can probably relate to I've lived a bunch of lifetimes already. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And still more to come, I'm sure. I mean, life is a whole cyclical journey. So, anything that you felt was left out as I was reading out your parts of your journey, or that might feel particularly impactful or helpful to highlight during this time in 2025?
Well, most of it, but nothing that comes to focus on now.
Okay. So I'll start with one of my questions to kind of prompt us along. To understand you, what does someone need to understand about your journey?
So, understand me. What does someone need to understand about my journey? The the failures. I got into the marketing work because when I was 18, I worked for a leadership development company that practiced and promoted a kind of some of the marketing was really good, and there were elements of it that were pushy and aggressive. And I was young, I didn't know better. And so that's what made sense to me. So I did a lot of that stuff. And growing up in a culture that is very steeped in coercion, that's what I did. So I'm the first amongst sinners. I think that's probably helpful to understand that I practiced a lot of the things that I now help people recover from.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I'm wondering if it'd be helpful if I put a headset in, or if that's going to mess with your. Okay, good.
No, yeah, go ahead. I mean, I'm very just go with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. So it's all fine.
All right. I think that'll probably work better.
Oh, okay. I think that's really important to know because I feel like, well, marketing has changed. Maybe that's an understatement, but so much has
What do
changed
you see
in such a
that's changed?
well, I didn't grow up. I'm a 92 baby, so I grew up, I'm thinking in a time and place with technology being just changing so much in such a short amount of time. And the notion of business and what does it mean to be true to ourselves, or stand on our own 2 feet. Like, I think there's many different layers to all of these things, lots of nuance. And to be at a place now also with AI, as someone who's been exposed to that, um, I feel like it's hard. And I don't, my audience can speak to this, perhaps everybody has different lived experiences, but I think that it can be quite challenging to figure out what the next steps are, how to be able to transition and or build something when it feels like we're standing on sand. Um,
And
in some way.
what is your understanding of what that sand is?
Well, I think part of it is cultural. There's a lot of different cultural things happening in different, I don't know, we can metaphysically, physically, emotionally. Um, I personally am of the belief that there's a lot of reckoning happening here in the United States. I mean, it was 60 years ago that civil rights took place, and the space that I work in is all about clarity. So how can women specifically and first generation such as myself find a place for ourselves? We are not born in the country, or we are born in this country, but we're not of this country that we have been growing in and trying to find ourselves. And we're in the midst of, okay, we're ready, or in some ways ready to create something for ourselves, whether that is in a corporate setting or a business. But the sand being, we've always been on sand culturally, and now legally and all these other layers, just it feels, um I guess, a constant unhinging, or a constant reckoning. And it's challenging, I think, because it's kind of, where do we look for our compass, or where, how do we know where to build? So I think we look for elders who have done it or have tried to do it successfully throughout change, for guidance.
Let me just reflect what I'm hearing just to see if I've got the sense of it. So there's a sense of there's a rapid technological change,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in the United States. There's a lot of
Yeah,
political changes that are happening now. And then
yeah,
also there's the change of, if you're a immigrant family and you've arrived,
right.
then there's that enormous change of location and culture and all of that, and that all of that is leaving people with a sense of, or your people maybe with a sense of general dislocation, general lack of grounding. Am I catching it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then the question is, in the moment, well, what is the best next step? Is it staying in a job? Is it trying to create a business? And then we add the layer of the values of, we want to do something that's ethical. We want to do something that feels true to us. And it gets entangled, all of it, of where do we, how do we steer the car when it seems to be multiple stoplights or red lights? That it's not a necessarily internal thing. We're dealing with a lot of external things, I would say. Hmm.
Do you find that for your people there's a sense of not knowing what they want, or do they have a sense of what they want but they're not sure how to get there?
I think it's both, actually. Yeah, I've experienced both. I've worked with some who are very clear that they want to work in the corporate space because they, I think, understand objectively that it takes a great deal to build a business, and that level of risk is just not for them. And that's fine. And then on the flip side, there are those who want to be self sufficient in that way, but to do it in a time that feels saturated, that feels financially unstable, on top of just already building a business can be quite unstable. So I think it's a bit of both. Yeah.
Why do you think it is that your people who don't know what they want don't know what they want?
I think we never knew what we wanted. I mean, speaking for myself, I'm a child of two Salvadorian immigrants. And so my parents did a lot to figure out what they wanted, being 30 years in the United States. And it probably took them, I don't even know how many decades. And to me, inherit that psychologically, financially, I'm 33 now. So I'm living that amount of time that I hope that I've gotten some clarity, being able to position myself now as a coach and as someone who doesn't have debt, because I've positioned myself that way, straddling consultant work as a marketer. Like, I think it's all positionality. How can we put ourselves in the best place possible? But I still don't know if I knew what I wanted. I mean, it took time to be able to engage with risk and experiment and be okay with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a sense of it's very difficult to know what you want if you don't know what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as you're saying, it's positioning yourself, but then positioning yourself in relation to what? Well, in relation to what's going on.
Yeah.
And of course the devil of the question, and what's coming, but we don't know what's coming. And so then how do we position ourselves for a future that's so uncertain and that's so unprecedented?
Yeah.
That is it going to go this way? Is it going to go that way? I mean, I remember being my grandfather was dying, and I was at the hospital, and I said to my cousin, we were in the hallway, I said, if I knew he was going to die in 3 hours, I'd stay. If I knew it was 3 days, I'd go home and sleep. And we don't know. And so then how do you pace yourself for the unknown? How do you so I mean I hear the struggle, and in terms of what to do about it, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of in it with everybody, but the general thing I would say is there are certain fundamentals that no matter which way we go are most likely to result in outcomes that are solid. That if the journey is fundamentally from a kind of sense of uncertainty to certainty, or a lack of stability to stability,
Right.
there are certain basics that are good to get in place, and that if you get those in place, it's more likely things work out. No guarantees.
Right.
But and if you don't have them in place, any kind of stability or success is unlikely. So to me, focusing on those is the thing.
I love that answer. Yeah, it's like the building blocks. And I've watched a lot of your YouTube, and I for everyone, I will link his YouTube and his 7 fundamentals of ethical marketing, because I think that's maybe this is a good transition. I feel like those are great building blocks that could be applied in some ways to multiple areas of life. What is the foundation, and then how do we build from there, but not looking from the top down, but from the bottom up. And I one of the quotes, or maybe you have this memorized, I don't know, but I love that you said depth is the antidote to desperation. Because something that I've for me, clarity. Do I know myself in this moment? What feels true? And I think coming back to that, it's challenging, but I think at the same time, it has never steered me wrong to have that certain north compass. And I think that the depth, that piece that you mentioned in the video, is really important in any sort of, if it's business, if it's career building, whatever the aspect may look like.
Well, a couple of thoughts occur. One is, if there's anyone listening who just I don't even know what to do with my life, I've got these interests and passions and things I'm good at.
Yeah.
The person I would talk to is Alex Baisley, who you might want to interview in your show. His website's bigdreamprogram.com. Brilliant at helping people cobble this together. But big picture, I think one of the most helpful things is it's often hard to know what we want, but it's easy to know what we don't want. And
Yeah.
that's not a design flaw. It's
Right.
that often the way we figure what we want is by getting clear on what we don't want. The way we know what might work is what's not working. So it's one of the most helpful exercises just to sit down and say, okay, what's not working about my life right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is showing up in my life that I don't like? And just rant and be very petty about it. Don't try to be politically correct. Don't try to be
Right.
nice and enlightened. Just get it out and then look at each one and say, what do I want instead of that? And then you have some sense of what you're moving towards. Um, and then if it's, working in the corporate world and making that work, I don't have too much to say. I've got
Yeah.
colleagues who that's their thing. It sounds like you may help with that. But if if you want to start a business, you're trying to figure out how to market it, then, that's where I might have something to offer.
How did that how did you get to what you were doing? I think we mentioned a little bit, or you mentioned, but what has helped you realize what you don't want and honor that?
Well, I couldn't keep a job. There was from a very young age, a constitutional incapacity to keep a job. My mom was a single mother raising two boys and asked me multiple times, could you get a job? And I failed her in the whole situation, but I just couldn't do it. I worked at a movie theater, got fired after a month. I had a paper route for a while. That was okay. I lasted 2 weeks at a telemarketing job. And I realized I needed to do my own thing. So that was part of it, was seeing this being employed by people doesn't work for me. Number two, I was doing some youth environmental social justice summer camps out of a group in Santa Cruz, California. And a lot of the events, there were these sit in circles and sharing circles. So there was a lot of having to hold space, but I couldn't shut the fuck up. And I just kept wanting to talk. And there was the big feedback I get from my co-facilitators. Like, well, you could hold space a bit. And so I did get better at it. I did learn a lot, but I realized it wasn't my strength. And then one day it occurred to me, oh, if you teach workshops, people want you to talk. People actually pay. They'd be upset if you don't talk.
Yeah.
And that just struck me as the most marvelous revelation. So I thought, I'll do workshops. And what do I know about? And marketing was one of those things. And it's not that I was a world expert at all. I just knew more than my friends who were struggling. And so then from the sense of, I don't want to just sit there and hold space for other people to share. It's important. I know it needs to be out there, and I don't think I'm the one to do it.
Okay.
From that, the seed of, how could I talk for a living? How could I get paid for this?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I think that takes courage, because even when we realize what we don't want and how to take that next step of committing to it, and I guess that's my next question is, how did you, once you started, was it you were able to pick yourself back up because you had, I think maybe some people, I don't know, the question nature versus nurture, is it something innate that some of us have that grit already, or do we develop the grit, or what? I don't know. What helped you? Any resources, tools, tips, tricks?
I think I probably had a lot of the grit, but really sometimes just that I can't go back to a job was enough. I think for a lot of us, it's this.
Yeah.
Oh God, if I can't do it. It's more painful, the thought of going back, than the risk. I was broke in the early days. I remember a day as I can't afford a bagel or a stamp, and I needed both, and I'd already looked through the couch.
Oh my gosh.
But I was doing what I loved. There's the old story of the Glenn Miller band. They were a big band, brass instruments, and they traveled all around on their little plane. And there was a snowstorm one day, and the plane couldn't get to the airport was going to land. So it landed somewhere, and they were going to have to walk across some farmer's field to get to the gig.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, the snow is a foot or two deep. They're in their suits. This is must be in the 40s or 50s or 60s. Anyway, they're trudging through these farmer fields to get to their gig.
Yeah.
And they're passing a farmer's cottage, and a couple of them just kind of run up to see what's happening inside. And it's this picture of domestic bliss.
Oh.
There's an apple pie,
Oh.
sitting around the stove. The father's sitting there smoking a pipe, reading the newspaper. The kids are playing with wooden toys, and it's kind of a log cabin situation, and everybody's as warm and cozy as could be. And one of the musicians turns to the other musician and he says, "How do people live like this?"
Yeah.
That he can't comprehend. Why would you not want to trudge through a field to blow
Wow.
people's minds with your music?
Yeah.
So I think we're all born with something that we're here to give, and it's very important that we give it. And I think it's hard to find the tenacity if we aren't in touch with that. But getting in touch with that is not always easy. And I think for a lot of us, there's experimenting. And one thing I would not recommend is just quit your job and start something if you're not really clear and sure. You can do a lot of little experiments. And so you could do, before you do a workshop, you just start talking with people about it. You write about it. You do a workshop in your living room for friends.
Yeah.
You ask a friend if they want to host you to do a workshop for their friends. Do a lot of very low risk stuff in the beginning to figure it out. Try a lot of different things. And then every time, what did I not like about that? What didn't work about that? What didn't feel right? And what would I do different? And is it a big pivot? Like, I don't like the whole thing, or do I need to just change it a little bit?
Yeah.
But the boldness of your reflection multiplied by the depth of your reflection, that's the how fast it's going to happen. If you do a lot of timid reflections or timid experiments and shallow reflection, you're not going to learn much. But if you try something a little bolder doesn't mean big. Bold just means you're very specific, particular. You're going to put it out and try. One of my colleagues, Javin Bernakovich, he would teach permaculture design certifications, and there'd be 2 weeks and you'd learn a million things. And at the end, he would have everyone pick 3 things. He'd say, number 1, what was the part of the training you loved the most? What was the skill or tool or process or idea that really grabbed you? Number 2, what's something you're really good at outside of permaculture? And number 3, what's a meaningful need you see in your community? What's a problem? And then he would say, do something about that in 10 days, spending no more than 10 hours and no more than $100.
Wow, great.
So, the 10 by 10 by 100 challenge. And the idea is just start small, because I think sometimes we blow our own circuits by, well, I got to do something really big, but it doesn't have to be big. And in fact, the big can it just be too much, and then we don't do anything at all. So start with the tiniest step you can. When people are saying, what's the next step? I think sometimes it's code for, well, how do I get all the way there?
Right.
But in life, you just get next steps. If you're really alive and tuned in, that's all you get is one next step, and then you get another next step. So, but it's important to take a step, because if you don't take any steps, you never talk with anyone, you never write anything down, you never try and experiment, there's no feedback coming back. But the very first step we can take often is, what's not working in my life, in my career?
That's right.
And be really brutally honest about it. Be willing to be petty and feel like you are the least enlightened person you know.
Yeah.
But make a list of everything that just doesn't feel good. And then you look at it and you say, okay, what's the most important stuff there? What's the stuff I hate the most?
Yeah.
What do I want instead? And then you just start to scheme. What could I do to change this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. Well, I have two kind of follow-ups from that. I want to try to stay, because if not, I will probably take us through what is it? Country back roads. And I'm trying to steer us off of I'm trying to keep myself course corrected. Are there things, my question that I ask guests are what media, so it could be a book, show, music, that has changed or shaped your life? So I feel like that's just a very general, but then going back to the the courage part, the how do we take action? I'm wondering if the media that you choose, if there any, if there are certain types that are more towards that, the courage and action. So I don't know, I'm open to whatever you choose to speak to.
Right. If somebody were saying I'm scared, what would I direct them to? There's a documentary. It's not easy to find because Beyonce put out her Lemonade album, but there's a documentary called Lemonade, and the tagline was something like, "It's not a pink slip, it's a get out of jail free card." And it was a documentary about people being fired from their jobs
Oh wow.
and then the lives they created on the other side.
Wow.
And that they treated it as a get out of jail free card. They hadn't actually wanted to really be in those careers. And so then they said, okay, what's the life I'm going to create on the other side of this? What am I going to do? I would, again, recommend Alex Baisley's work, bigdreamprogram.com. He's got a lot of free content and videos, and he has worked with a lot of people who've taken these scary steps to build up courage. Another colleague who you might interview, I'd recommend, is Betty Cotton Birtles. Her website is truewealthwithbetty.com. And she does a lot of this inner work, because often the fear is just there's childhood stuff that's there. There's something that happened when we were young.
That's right.
You can draw a direct line between the fear to be visible in the world and maybe what happened when you were visible when you were smaller. Gosh, so those are the things that come to mind. In terms of podcast or a book around courage. I don't know. I hear Brene Brown's got some good ones. I haven't read them, but that's what comes to mind. Yeah, that's what's in my heart right now.
Okay. But anything, I guess, that you have gone back to again and again that has been a kind of a consistent, and again, it could be anything. I don't even a song, but I'm just curious, what are the things that people go back to in their own lives? Like for me, it's there's a salsa song that is from the Yoruba kind of tradition, and I always go back to that. There's some books like Ishmael that I always go back. So I'm just curious, is there any, if you feel comfortable, if not, then I'll move on to another question, but just wondering if there's anything near and dear to your heart that is helpful or has been helpful.
There's there's a few books. One was called A Language Older Than Words by Derek Jensen.
Okay.
And if you liked Ishmael, you would love that book. That book. Then the work of Stephen Jenkinson. I mean, he's written a number of books which I've all read, or most of them. And then fellow Martin Prechtel, his books. I think I'll probably go back to his books multiple times over my life.
Wow.
And also folktales. I'm big on folktales. I think our ancestors understood a lot of this stuff in their own ways. And you can go to the folklore of your own ancestors, and there's such gold there.
Yeah, beautiful. And what has have there been moments during your business, because now I want to maybe talk a little bit about business for those of my audience who enjoy business building and want to do it, that have been scary, and maybe you knew that that was the right decision, but there was fear or uncertainty, and how did you walk through that? I think now for people such as myself as well, the question of AI, or how to create something, kind of going back to what we talked about, when things feel like a lot, like there's a lot of people doing similar things, and why me, or and for how long? I don't know if that speaks to fear, but I'm just curious if there have been moments in your business and building that path that maybe you were at a fork in the road, or some sort of crossroads, and yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned about the new technology thing.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's good to be, I would say the general orientation that I think is most helpful in this is be careful, not fearful.
Mm.
Be full of care, just don't be full of fear.
Mm.
The fearful is not a good posture towards life.
Mm-hmm.
But if we say, okay, how do I bring as much care and love to this as possible, you get a better response generally.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that I'm unaware of the presence of AI, though I don't consider myself the most informed on it.
Okay.
But there have, for a long time now, been new technologies being introduced. Almost all of them pitched purely on their positive merits. Almost none of them voted on by the people, and almost all of them there anyways.
Right.
And almost all of them with such enormous negative consequence on the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And each one of them promising liberation. That seems to be the central pitch of any new technology. Women, the dishwasher will free you.
That's right.
To work as a corporate drone, apparently.
Yeah.
And the car will free you, and this will, all of these things, allegedly to free us. There was Ivan Illich, who's a philosopher and thinker. He was curious about this dynamic of the car, because the car allegedly helps us get places faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he did the math on it, and he said, okay, a car has a cost to it. So to buy a car, you need to spend this much money for the car. Then there's insurance, then there's gas, all the costs that are associated with the car. And then he figured out, okay, now, given the wage people have, how many hours do they have to work in order to make the money to pay for the car?
Okay. Wow.
And he factored all that in, and he said, now if we say that you're driving this distance this fast, but we factor that time in, how fast are you actually driving?
Right.
Because you got to take away the hours you're working. And he realized that the average car was driving about 3 or 4 miles an hour, which is about walking speed. So the car hasn't saved us anything.
Right.
And anyways, new technologies have always appeared, and every generation. There's a fantastic book called The Parable of the Tribes by Baird T. Schmuckler, and he posits this. He says, look, imagine you're a tribe, and you're a Stone Age tribe.
Okay.
And there's 9 or 10 tribes around you, and one of them goes Bronze Age. They've now smelted and refined, and they now have weapons and agricultural things. So they decide they want your land. Well, you're a Stone Age tribe facing off against a Bronze Age tribe. What are you going to do? And there's, let's say, 4 or 5 options, but all of them will fundamentally change you forever.
Wow.
You can run. Now you're not on your land. That will change you. You can fight back, and you will be slaughtered.
Wow.
That changes you. You will you can submit to them,
Right.
and that will change you. Or you could bronze up yourself, and that will change you. And then it's the Iron Age, and then it's the advent of the Industrial Revolution, and then and here we are with AI.
Right.
So this is this dynamic has been around a long time. I don't think being fearful about it is helpful, but it's the same choice is what I'm saying. Is it's not, it's different in pace, but it's not different in it's different in the quantity, how fast it's happening, but it's not different in quality. Fundamentally, it's the same thing. There's a new something that's coming, that the arms race, and AI is the latest arms race.
That's true.
And so, I mean, just anyways, we've been here before, and the challenge, the reason I'm not that concerned about AI, though maybe I will be if I dig into it more, is but the reason I'm fundamentally not concerned for my clients is it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, that people are feeling it's hard to trust the ground that you're on.
Right.
Are the sands going to shift again? And it's hard to trust even the sources of information. Who do we trust? What do we trust?
That's right.
And now there are, the other day I got an email back from the support of a subscription I was canceling. And for the first time in my life, I wondered, was that a human being that wrote that, or was that an AI?
Wow.
Because it was such a fast response and it seemed so personalized. I just thought, I can't imagine they've got that many staff to respond that quickly.
Right.
After the fires in Lahaina in Maui, 3 days after, I think the fires were still going, there was a book on Amazon selling about climate change and the fires in Maui. So that's a book that was written by AI.
Wow.
For sure. Somebody put in ChatGPT, write a book, got AI art for the cover.
Wow.
It was up in days. And so in the short term, that works probably. But the challenge is it doesn't work in the long term. And it's the same with manipulative approaches. They're the sort of synthetic steroid mechanistic approach to marketing. And it does work in the short term. You can figure out people's buttons and push them. And that psychology was figured out a long time ago. Edward Bernays kind of nailed it, but it's probably been known for ages and ages by the elite. And they have our number. They've got it dialed. They know the buttons to push. And then now there are courses you can take to learn to do the same thing yourself. So again, short term, you're going to get clients, but long term, you don't. And I think, so that's number one. How long do you want to be in business for? If you want to be in business for a year or 6 months, okay, do all the schlock and the AI, jump on trends and just roll with that. But if you want to be in business long term, in the long term, it's all about reputation. In the long term, I mean, Rick Rubin, I saw a video of him talking about it, the music producer, and he said, the artists that he trusts and follows the most, admires the most, are the ones they have their own point of view. They've got their own sense of style, and AI is incapable of that. AI is always derivative of something, but it doesn't have the creative spark of something startling and never seen before in the world.
Right.
That's something that seems to be the unique province of human beings that machines won't do. And so one, you're never going to create something original with that approach. But number two, over time, I think people are going to be looking for something more human that they trust. So yes, there's a lot of people jumping into the AI thing, and they'll probably do well. I mean, they'll probably do great. But I don't think you can really long-term build trust with that. You certainly can't build relationship with that. And you can't even have a genuine point of view with it. You're going to have a point of view that's derivative of other people's point of view. So
that's right.
I think there's going to be so much more noise, and people will be looking for a clear signal. There's going to be so much schlock out there. And people are going to be looking for substance and hungry for something real. As
Yeah.
everything becomes increasingly synthetic and divorced from reality, people are going to be craving something that has something real to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you walk us through at a super high level, maybe not doesn't as much as you'd like. We'll just put it that way. The fundamentals, the 7 fundamentals of ethical marketing. I know I alluded to it,
Yeah.
but just to kind of maybe give some context, and I think that this is a great framework for business and marketing, and just for those of um, for those people who want to be in business and want to do it in a way that feels good, that's sustainable, the people who want to be in for the long haul and don't know where to start. Yeah.
Well, okay. So assuming somebody has some idea for a business that they want to do,
Mhm.
there's, I could even boil it down to 3 things, but then we'll go into the 7. If I had to boil it down to 3, there's ethics, effectiveness, and beauty. These are the 3 pieces that are central to my work. So you could imagine effectiveness is a small circle. It's inside a bigger circle of ethics, which is inside a bigger circle of beauty.
Okay.
And that effectiveness has to do with, it's got to work, it's got to achieve the job, it's got to do the thing. Ethics is doing it in a way that doesn't destroy the goodwill and trust between people, doing it in a way that is sustainable for the community and not just for you, but also for you. And that is going to build a long-lasting reputation, which in the long term is the whole thing.
Right.
And then beauty is what makes us want to keep going.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of ugliness in the world, and to me, all of this has to serve beauty and the creation of more beauty in the world. So, but if we were to look at it slightly differently, we could imagine that beauty is well, ethics and effectiveness are kind of fundamentals, but beauty is the fundament. So we could picture a pyramid on top of this ground of beauty. And the foundation of that pyramid is ethics. That's the bottom of it. And that's what's holding the pyramid up and allowing it to last as long as it does.
Yeah.
That when people proceed unethically, which I also think AI makes it easier to do, and the more we remove ourselves from other human beings, the easier a lack of ethics becomes. But if we proceed in that way, we're burning a lot of bridges and we're having to start fresh. We're having to get a new list of clients all the time. We've all had that experience where we got burned by some unethical behavior from a business. Not only did we not go back, we told all of our friends, and now you got a bad reputation. And sometimes those businesses go under or they just relocate. But either way, it's a lot of effort to, when you take off in a plane, almost all the fuel is used to get into the jet stream. Then almost no fuel is used.
Right.
So it's a lot of effort to get up there into this realm of good reputation and trust.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the good ethics, you might not even get up there at all. Or if you do, it won't last. There's the old saying, you can only make a killing once. Yeah, and now they're dead. Now you got to find somebody new.
Yeah.
So we start with the ethics. The next is space. That we have to create more space in our life, which is ever more critical. And space, I mean, in a number of ways. Physical space, one of the places I suggest people start if they're overwhelmed in their days is Marie Kondo your home.
Yeah.
Go through, get rid of the clutter. It will help so much more than you think it will.
Yeah.
Number 2, time, space, temporal space. So go through your calendar. Get off that volunteer board that you don't care about. Cancel those social plans that you don't really want to go to. Create more space in your calendar.
Yeah.
There's the emotional space. Say sorry to the people you got to say sorry to. Meditate, yoga, whatever it is that gives you that internal space so you're not so reactive.
Yeah.
But we need breathing room. Most
Yes.
of us are so reactive because we don't have the breathing room. So whatever we need to do that, I mean,
Yeah.
there's that fantastic account on Instagram, Nap Ministry, you
Oh,
know, and all about the importance of rest, and their book Rest is Resistance. But it's
yes.
you've got to have space, and this means saying no to almost everything. It's and not saying no because we're too busy, saying no because we don't want to be that busy.
Right.
Then above that, there's niche.
Okay.
So if we're proceeding with this good heart and good intentions, I'm going to be honest, and I've got the room now. Okay, so what's the role that I want to play in my community? What's the thing I want to be known for in the marketplace? And we can't. You just can't be everything to everybody. That's the way it all ends, is
Yeah.
people pleasing. And people pleasing is, to me, also an iteration of not enough emotional space.
Mm.
So we pick the one thing that we want to be known for and just go for one. There's a lot of things, but if you're gonna have a business, what's the one thing? If I was standing at a party and somebody were gossiping about me, and what does Tad do? They say, oh, Tad does this. What's the thing I'd want them to say?
Yeah.
So we do that. And then above that is point of view. So point of view is, okay, if your niche is where you're standing. Point of
Right.
view is the willingness to tell the truth about what you see
Okay.
from where you're standing. And
Mm-hmm.
so point of view marketing is this idea that instead of trying to make the case for people to buy from us, we make the case for an approach or a perspective, whether or not they buy from us.
Okay. Wow.
And then above that, we've got business model. So this gets to the structure and the architecture of the business, of what are the checklists and systems we need inside the business. And then on the outer side, what are the offers? What are we going to be putting out into the world? Because if we go back to niche, if you really get your niche and you nail it, people will look at your work and say, either they'll basically say, that's for me.
Right. Right.
Oh my God, that's a fit. That's exactly the product I need. Or, oh my God, I'm exactly the kind of client for this service. With
Yeah.
point of view, they hear it and they say, wow, that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I feel aligned with that perspective. Damn, I like that approach. And with business model, with the offers, it's the kind of shut up and take my money, that you make offers that are so good because they're not trying to be an offer for everybody. They're an offer for this particular group. And you've made the case for that offer by making the case for the perspective it's based on.
Right. Right.
And then you create an offer that you just really think it through. And then people are like, oh God, that's a great offer. Then there's the hub marketing. And hub marketing means, instead of approaching people cold, you build
Right.
relationships. And instead of saying, hey, do you want to buy my product, you maybe find somebody connected to your people who says, hey, do you want to buy this person's product? So today, in this case, you're a hub for me. You're hosting me, and I'm reaching people I wouldn't have reached before.
That's right.
And then the last one, the seventh one, is this idea of sharing. You got to find a way to share your work that is going to work for you, that you can do sustainably over time. There's a lot of tactics at work. But if you're terrified of public speaking, even though that works, maybe that's not
Yeah.
the one for you. If you hate writing, maybe that's not the one. If you're a big time introvert, then maybe networking is not for you. And so you find an approach that could actually work. So it's those seven in that order, but we can
Wow.
boil it down to each one of them has a kind of
Mm.
value that our traditional ancestors, I think, would understand.
Mm.
And so with space or ethics, I think there's
Mm-hmm.
a value of respect,
Yeah.
the willingness to treat other people as if they are also human beings who are alive,
That's right.
just like us. With
That's
space, I mean, I think that's probably the value too. It's just,
right. Mm.
you don't overcomplicate. You don't make your life so nuts. You got to
Yeah.
have enough breathing room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, for niche, there's this value of humility.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't be everything to everybody. You want to, do more, and you can't. And the willingness to just have some grief and sadness at our limits.
Yeah.
For point of view, there's a value of wisdom that I think all of our ancestors understood. the importance of seeing patterns in the world, the importance of thinking clearly, and yeah. And then with business model, to me, that's all about the value of craft. That
Okay.
all of our ancestors understood the need to make things well so that they worked, that you didn't half-ass it on your bow and arrow.
Yeah.
You didn't half-ass it on the cooking pots that were going to cook the food. There was an
Right.
enormous amount of care to make things that were really functional.
Yeah.
For hubs, there's a value of reciprocity and relationship.
Mhm.
And then for sharing, I think there's something about some kind of self-knowledge of just like, well, yeah, what's going to work for you? What's the flavor of approach that's going to work?
Yeah.
So to me, if you don't have those 7, everything is so hard. If you
Mhm.
try to imagine a business with the opposite, where
Yeah.
you start a new business and you're going to behave unethically, you're completely maxed out, you got no room for that business anyways, you're trying
Right.
to be everything to everybody, you have no clear, compelling point of view to make a case for why they'd want to do this approach,
Right.
your uh, offers are shitty,
Right.
you are cold approaching everybody using an approach that you don't even like in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a disaster. And without those 7, I think failure is guaranteed. With those 7, there's a chance of success.
Success. Yeah. And I think you spoke to that in the video, which I hope I can share. I'm not trying to gatekeep, but please let me know if I can share that link. That you said something around, there's a lot that goes into business success.
Yeah.
It's not just the effort or, oh, sorry, did I? Oh no, okay. Sorry, I thought I interrupted you. One of the follow-ups I wanted to ask is, have you seen a tendency, which of the 7 that you feel people struggle with the most? Is there something that over time you've seen kind of a recurring theme?
Yeah, for almost everyone who books me for a one-on-one coaching session, it's niching.
Niche. Oh wow. So the taking up space, or like, this is the space I want to stand on, or the ground I want to. Wow. Why do you think it's challenging? I mean, I know I did the niche the niche review also, so I'm just outing myself. But I'm curious, as you've seen it. So why do you think? Any common denominators?
Well, I think because uh, for most of the people I work with as hippies, the ethics is already kind of there.
Hmm.
They already care about the ethics, so that they're not going to start at that bottom place. The
Okay.
space, I think they just don't understand yet how fundamental that is. That
Okay.
penny hasn't dropped.
Mm.
Otherwise, that's probably what they'd focus on. So I think the first one that occurs to them in the pyramid is niche. They've done enough other courses and realized, oh, if I don't have the niche, this doesn't work. And this is something I've seen so many times where
Mm.
um, people sign up for a course, they spend all this money with
Mhm.
grand promises of 6 figures in 6 months or whatever, and then the first call is about niche, and it's only one call,
Oh
and
wow.
then the rest of it hinges on them having a niche which they don't have. So I think people have seen the consequences, and they've tried being everything to everyone, and it doesn't work.
Right.
So I think that's it. And yeah, and if people are interested in that video, if you go to marketingforhippies.com/starter kit.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that's where you can get access to it.
Excellent. Thank you. And then why do you um what was I was gonna ask? And then do you think that it's a maybe a societal thing, that maybe, or is it that lack of space that people haven't dug deep enough, dug their own well to figure out, okay, this is actually where
Hmm.
my space is. I'm just curious, is there anything
No.
that maybe people can take away of, okay, how can I start to figure the niching, or not before to get to the niching, I guess, like what are the dominoes that are helpful to have fallen in order to get there? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the biggest set of dominoes that ought to have fallen would have been being born in a culture instead of an empire.
Mhm. Wow.
Um, so we're there should be mercy. There should be enormous mercy, and nobody beat themselves up for struggling with their niche. Because I mean,
Mm.
I think it was Malidoma Somé talking about the Dagara people in West Africa, where when the woman, but if God, even before this, before a child's born, they're prayed for.
Wow.
When the child is in the stomach, the medicine man would interview that baby through the voice of the mother
Wow.
and say, "Who are you? Why have you
Wow.
come? What's the gift that you're bringing?" So that before the child even came out, they had some sense of who this child was and what their gifts were. And
Wow.
then I think in almost any traditional culture, you'd have this baby born, and people pay attention and just start to see things about the nature. And then, as they're growing up, they see what they're drawn to. Oh, this child loves the stories. This child loves making things. This child is, every time the hunting is, talked about, they light up. And this one is likes to fight and wrestle a lot, and maybe they're a warrior. And so you start to
Yeah.
figure out who these kids are, so that the village knows who you are before you do, and
Wow.
you're sort of steered towards this by
Yeah.
the elders in the community, and it happens all very naturally and organically, and in a way that you um, feel deeply seen and affirmed. And then you might even be given a name, and that name would speak to who you are in such a way that that name would be
Yeah.
simultaneously the deepest affirmation of who you are and all the room you could ever need to grow into. But in the absence of that, we get to
Mm.
figure it out ourselves, which is insane. This is the spell of autonomy that we're under.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's pitched to us as freedom. Isn't that great? You get to figure the universe out yourself. You get to figure out your place in the universe too. I mean, how wealthy are we? And of course, that's the state of cultural poverty we're at, is that we
Mhm.
are left to figure out our role in the big thing, and also figure out the big thing while we're at it. Not only do you figure out where you stand, you got to learn the whole land in
Yes.
your lifetime by yourself. So
Yes.
in a functioning culture, that's just not how it is. The mercy of it is, we already got you dialed. And we
Yeah.
started carving the bow for your hunting. We started
Wow.
working on that years ago, before you
Wow.
realized fully that you wanted to be a hunter. We already kind of knew. But what's happening today, speaking of AI, is
Mm.
increasingly in schools, you'll get these tables, these tablets, giant tablets, and these will roll out more and more, where kids play on them and play games. Now,
Yeah.
as they're playing the game, there are fisheye cameras and microphones that are tracking uh, their facial expression, tracking who's speaking, how much, how loud.
Wow.
And from the algorithm of behaviors, they will then start to award people, kids, badges, and track them towards, let's say, 6 careers: biotech, green energy, coding,
Wow.
AI, all these things.
Yeah.
So instead of elders saying, we see the gifts you've brought, and we're so
Right.
glad you're here, and steering you towards um, a vocation,
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
steered towards a career path, but
Mm.
by a machine
Right.
that has no idea why we're here. My friend Lewis Cardinal, who's a Cree elder, he said when his elders had pointed, I said, when kids are born, they come out with their hands like little fists. And
Wow.
why is that? Because
Mm.
they have something in those hands. They're bringing something for us. So
Wow.
one of the major functions of culture is to figure out what those gifts are and make sure that they're given to the community.
Yeah.
And we just don't have that. So we have to figure it out ourselves. And that is desperately hard. And nobody should have any guilt or shame about struggling, because it's
Mm.
a near impossibility on our own.
Yeah.
But of course, there's some clues. Uh, and I would say there's 3 things you can look at generally. One, your gifts, second, your wounds, third, your nature. So first of all, good to just look at, what are you good at, and
Mhm.
look at the things that you're baffled that it's hard for other people.
Okay.
Like, why does everybody struggle? This is the easiest shit. Hosting a party? What do you mean it's hard? This is the most natural thing.
Yeah.
Because that probably is a clue about what the shape of your work might be. For me,
Okay.
getting in front of people and talking, always easy.
Yeah,
Always
yeah,
loved it, not a problem. Other people, they're terrified of that. So for me, it was okay. The shape of my gift probably is something about getting in front of people and talking.
yeah.
Second is the wound. And there's
Mm,
at least for, I don't know, people in the healing arts or coaching service providers, it's very often true that our deepest wounds are often a doorway to our truest niche. The places
yeah,
that we've struggled and overcome, it just means you got to some learning on those matters. And so if there's something you really struggled with, well, now you know something about it. And maybe that could be the direction. And
that's right.
almost always that ends up being the case.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
so that gives the direction to the niche. And
yeah,
then there's your nature. And maybe you're shy, maybe you're really gregarious and outgoing, but
yeah.
the nature gives the tone of the work. So again,
Mhm.
the gifts give the form and shape, the wound gives the direction, and then the your nature gives the tone and the vibe to it. So if you sit with those three things, there's often some general idea that starts to appear, and then you do a little experiment,
Yeah, yeah.
something very tiny, just to see and get some feedback.
Wow. That was beautiful. I'm kind of tempted to just end it there, that mic drop, but that was amazing. I just want to say that I also feel affirmed in all of that because
Mm.
a as I said in the beginning, a child of immigrants and figuring it out, not because I remember my first interview. I'm My mom was the first generation going to college in my family, and I'm the second. And so, not having any sort of language for what it would be to be a woman, person of color in corporate United States, white America. And the first question they asked me was, "Am I a citizen?" Because we all have accents, but it just so happened that I grew up speaking Spanish, and so really that piece about culture is I think is so important. And for those of us who don't know our culture or haven't or have been so disassociated from it, what I really took away was the internal. There's never going to be um, lack of ocean inside of us. I think there's so much inside, and I resonated with everything of that, and I just appreciate that so much. So I'll just ask if there's any other, as if there could be, recommendation or anything you'd like. I guess final thoughts or final words as we wrap up.
I don't think so. I mean, I'll say I'm very touched by the invitation and your willingness to consider that I have anything worth sharing at all that might be relevant to your people, because it's there's no such thing as a kind of universal anything,
Mm,
a wisdom, and the struggles that your community have. You know, I've never lived. I don't know what it's like to be you, or any of your people. And I'm just a white guy from Edmonton, Alberta, and that's the life I've lived.
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm very touched that you would imagine that there's anything here that might help your community. And um, just thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I hope that this space is welcome for everyone, anyone, because that's what I hope to emit. And uh, if this conversation, speaking to people listening or watching, because this will be both video and audio, if this has shifted for anything in you, please share it with a friend. Send it to someone who's also navigating that clarity shift, search for purpose, especially around business or marketing. As we discussed, you can find Tad's work at marketingforhippies.com, and I'll drop the link to his 7 fundamentals of ethical marketing. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep shifting. Thank you. And if I can find the button.